making a nice left turn here.
We reach Great Sail Key, the small island Flight 19 never found, and head back to Fort Lauderdale.
Sadly, Flight 19, I don't believe, ever made it to this point, which is the final leg back from Great Sail Key into Fort Lauderdale.
So what happened to those missing planes? Unlike the Navy, Gian Quizar doesn't believe the planes are sitting on the bottom of the ocean.
There's solid evidence that Flight 19 could not have ditched at sea, as is the standard Navy scenario.
In 1945, the Navy believes the planes went down around here because of a radio fixed position report at 5:50 p.m. That report places the aircraft within this 100-mile radius. But at 7 o'clock p.m., another radar report shows 4 to 6 aircraft near Flagler Beach, Florida. The Navy dismisses this report, though, believing Flight 19 just kept flying back and forth over the water, never reaching the Florida coast.
There is no way it could not have detected Flight 19 had that flight been at sea. So the idea that they ditched at sea is impossible because they would have been picked up on radar doing so.
If the Avengers never ditched at sea, then where did they go? A new theory has emerged. With a moonless night and thickening cloud cover, they could have been flying over land and not even known it.
There's only one place I would say they could have gone, the Okefenokee Swamp.
In Georgia, near the Florida border, the Okefenokee is a vast and watery wilderness stretching 650 miles. As a wildlife refuge, it's home to many endangered species, and like any good swamp, alligators. Could it also be the home of what remains of Flight 19?
5 aircraft can easily vanish in there.
To further support his theory, Quizar points to another radar report from that night. Air Transport Command reports 5 unidentified aircraft at 8:50 p.m., 32 miles from Brunswick, Georgia. At the time, speculation that these are the 5 missing Avengers is met with deep skepticism, because it was estimated that their fuel would only last until 8 p.m. at the latest. But Quizar says the fuel estimates were grossly underestimated, since the planes weren't weighted down with bombs, and because the pilots were not flying near top speeds. Could they have made it all the way to the Georgia swamp, several hundred miles past the search area?
There's no doubt about it. They had enough fuel with the direction they were heading west to hit Florida and go beyond, actually.
The Okefenokee, with its vast and treacherous terrain, is almost impossible to explore in any great depth. But we will attempt to outwit one of Mother Nature's most impenetrable fortresses. We commission Digital Globe to acquire QuickBird satellite images of a 262 square mile section of the swamp. We then sent the data to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Using a technique known as image processing, NASA hopes to use subtle color variations in the overgrown swamp foliage, invisible to the naked eye, to find the airplanes. The healthiest, most vigorous growth looks bright red. Plants under stress, perhaps caused by a rusty fuselage or slowly leaking fluids lying below, look a dull brown or pale pink.
They're not going to see a perfect silhouette of an aircraft under any circumstance. The tannic acid in the water would have corroded most everything. The engine stock will be there, parts of the fuselage.
NASA divides the image data into 300 frames, repeatedly scanning back and forth through the minute pixels for more than 24 eye-straining man-hours.
If they end up in the swamp, there's going to be a big fallout, because here's 5 aircraft in a government-controlled swamp, and the Navy never knew it.
Could one of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Bermuda Triangle finally be solved? While retracing the route of the 5 lost Navy Avengers, we flew over the shallow waters of the Bahamas, an area thought by many to be the center of the Bermuda Triangle's potent powers. Some believe Atlantis, a prehistoric continent powered by mythical forces, is buried beneath these sands and is the cause of the triangle's strange and deadly phenomenon.
The things that link Atlantis with the Bermuda Triangle have to do with the concept that Atlantis had power systems, built pyramids all over the world, had a high technology, and that one of these power stations is actually underwater here in the Bermuda Triangle.
One of the most convincing believers in Atlantis was world-renowned clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. In the 1930s and 40s, long before the concept of the Bermuda Triangle is even born, he predicts that the first portions of Atlantis will rise again in 1968 or 69 in the waters near Bimini. Decades after Cayce's original prediction, a pilot flying in the Bahamas spots a row of unusually symmetrical rocks in the water that look surprisingly like an ancient structure. The discovery is intriguing on its own, but the location and timing is stunning. It is 1969, the very year of Cayce's prediction, and the location is Bimini.
I think the Bimini Road is evidence of Atlantis because those stones are not from the Bahamas. They've been brought here from somewhere else, and that was probably 10,000 years ago.
David Childress is an author and an expert on ancient civilizations, including Atlantis.
I believe that Bimini is one of the areas where Atlantis was located because the Bahamas themselves are a very shallow bank. Geologists say that 10,000 years ago, the time of Atlantis, ocean levels were 300 feet lower. That would make the Bahamas into a mini continent, much like Atlantis.
Locals in Bimini aren't sure if the Bimini Road is evidence of Atlantis, but they are certain that bizarre and eerie triangle phenomena occur in Bimini with frequency.
There are weird things that happen in Bimini that are unexplainable, and not just in Bimini on the island of North or South Bimini, but in the waters around Bimini. Strange occurrences happen that have no explanation for.
Just 50 miles east of Florida, Bimini is an entry point to the Bahamas for boaters, a destination for deep-sea fishing enthusiasts and divers. Krista Brown spends her days taking tourists out on the water here.
Once I was north of Bimini on a dolphin trip, and the compass just started spinning in circles. And we found the dolphins, the people got in the water, had a great interaction, a swim with them, and the dolphins started to move away. Everybody got back in the boat, started to follow the dolphins, and the compass worked exactly right. I have no idea why it happened or what, but it was about 10 minutes of just the compass was spinning. I was very freaked out.
Magnetic deviations seem to be reported more frequently here than elsewhere in the triangle. Compasses spin or are totally inaccurate. It may not be a coincidence that one of the checkpoints for Flight 19 is just north of the island at Hens and Chickens Shoals, where the crew does a bombing exercise before becoming lost. Could the phantoms of an ancient civilization, one powered by magical crystals and energy, have a hand in the triangle's mysteries?
No, I want to go back there.
I decide to travel to the Bimini Road with David Childress to investigate. We charter a dive boat to take us on this unprecedented excursion and head out to the underwater site to have a look. Explain to me, though, what Atlantis has to do with the whole phenomenon known as the Bermuda Triangle.
One of the concepts with Atlantis is that this civilization that's from over 10,000 years ago not only built roads and bridges and port cities, but they also built these giant pyramid power stations. These things, in theory,